problems already bubbling for the monarchy.
There are questions about how many Commonwealth countries might drop the British monarch as their head of state now that Queen Elizabeth has died.
For some nations in the Commonwealth, grief is complex.
From Britain to the Bahamas, Australia to St. Lucia, if you've ever snorted a line, chances are you've done it through a picture of the Queen's face.
Antiguans saw their Queen every day. Portrait on the local currency, the most tangible connection to a distant monarchy.
The late monarch is on the banknotes and coins of 14 countries across the Commonwealth, a broader club composed of mainly former British colonies.
It remains a great pleasure and honour to serve you as head of the Commonwealth.
The 56 members get together every 4 years for a smaller version of the Olympics, with leaders hosting a big political get-together every 2 years.
But in the wake of the Queen's passing, more and more countries are saying that they want to consciously uncouple from Britain, either by removing the monarch as the head of state or withdrawing from the Commonwealth altogether.
This is the time to actually shed that cloak of colonialism and try to see how we could forge and form our own Belizean identity.
Sorry, Charles, but your time has passed.
As King Charles III takes the throne, could this be the beginning of the end for the Commonwealth?
Royal Empires of Dirt, a show about how British monarchs got rich at the expense of everyone else.
Here at Buckingham Palace in 1949, my father met the heads of government which created the Commonwealth as we know it today.
Set up in 1949, the Commonwealth of Nations describes itself as a voluntary organization whose governments have all agreed upon shared goals of democracy, development, and peace. Benefits include trade deals, visa-free travel, and the ability to club together on important issues like climate change. Nowadays, even countries like Rwanda, not a former colony, have opted to join. Together, it combines 2.5 billion people and has a combined GDP of over $11.3 trillion in 2021.
The essence of the Commonwealth is its remarkable diversity.
But it's hard to overlook its imperial origins as a rebranding exercise for the British Empire. One of the most common criticisms of the Commonwealth is that it keeps alive the legacy of atrocities committed during British colonialism. Not only is it a hangover of troubled times, it can also be seen as a barrier to total independence and sovereignty for the 14 members who still recognize the British monarch as their ceremonial head of state, at least for now.
Please pardon, but I can't bring myself to say King Charles III. I cannot.
Why?
In 2022 in Jamaica, the head of state of Jamaica is King Charles III. Lord, Mrs. Come on. No.
While everyone in the Commonwealth says on paper that they're all equal in status, it's only ever been led by the British monarch.
The King held his first reception as the head of the Commonwealth at the Palace this afternoon, meeting with the Commonwealth Secretary-General and High Commissioners.
For some, the Commonwealth compounds the disparities between Britain and its former colonies, particularly in the Caribbean, where the after-effects of centuries of resource extraction, slavery, and underdevelopment are still felt today.
British monarchy needs to repair the damage that has been done over more than 400 years.
Some of the far reaches of Britain's old empire have become something of a new empire, one of tax havens. These so-called secrecy jurisdictions allowed London to become a global financial epicenter in the wake of a crumbling empire. Commonwealth membership extends to British overseas territories, including Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, and the British Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. These 3 small islands, thousands of miles away from the UK, are some of the biggest enablers of corporate tax abuse through a complex hidden financial system of offshore accounts.
Britain has a huge responsibility because many of those tax havens have become honeypots of international corruption, tax avoidance, and tax evasion.
Among the benefactors of these tax havens are, you guessed it, the royals. Funny that. In the 2017 Paradise Papers leak, it was revealed that millions of pounds from the late Queen's private estate had been invested offshore but never disclosed.
My goodness, I've been busy.
Soon after the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020, some countries in the Caribbean decided to start removing the Queen as their head of state, beginning with Barbados the following year, which transitioned to become a republic but remained part of the Commonwealth. It was the first time in nearly 30 years that a realm had decoupled, and after the Queen's death, more countries are thinking of doing the same.
Jamaica has already made moves to reform the constitution after clearly signaling intent during William and Kate's disastrous tour of the Caribbean in March, with the aim of becoming a republic by 2025.
They shouldn't be welcomed as leaders of the country, as representatives of the head of state. How these two young white people now? Those days are done. The monarchy is a relic. We should leave it behind.
Antigua and Barbuda has said that it wants to hold a referendum on removing the British monarch as its head of state in the next 3 years. Not as an act of hostility, its prime minister said, but as the final step to complete the circle of independence and to become a truly sovereign nation.
Antigua is one of 14 nations which still retain the British monarch as their head of state. But for how much longer?
New Zealand and Australia have both reiterated their loyalty to the monarchy and their commitment to the Commonwealth, but neither of them have ruled out severing ties at a later date. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese pushed back a referendum on becoming a republic to 2025 out of respect, but he didn't cancel it.
Well, that's a discussion for another time.
And even though New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has said it's not the priority right now, she's also said that she expects the country to become a republic in her lifetime.
It's a very complex consideration, but I do believe there will be a natural evolution over time.
Each member's constitutional arrangement, as republic or monarchy, is purely a matter for each member country to decide.
Many indigenous people in these predominantly white countries don't feel as loyal towards the monarchy because of its legacy of colonization and invasion. Overall, it's not surprising some members want to call it quits of King Charles and the Commonwealth. It's not you, it's me. But basically, we all know what that really means.